July 1997, Santa Barbara, California. Gregory Peck walks into Robert Mitchum's bedroom where his old co-star lies, dying of lung cancer. Mitchum is 79, oxygen tubes running to his nose, his once powerful frame reduced to shadow and bone. His wife Dorothy sits in the corner, red-eyed from crying. A nurse stands by the door. Gregory, 80 years old but still carrying that 6'3" presence, pulls a chair close to the bed. Wait, because what Gregory Peck said in the next 30 seconds would shock everyone in that room and reveal a 35-year secret about loyalty, professional integrity, and why two men who could not have been more different respected each other until the very end. A secret that explained everything about what Hollywood used to mean when character mattered more than publicity. Mitchum opens his eyes. Even dying, there is that sardonic intelligence that made him perfect for playing dangerous men. They send a lawyer? His voice is rough, destroyed by decades of cigarettes and the cancer eating through his lungs. Gregory does not smile. His face shows nothing, that same controlled expression that made him Atticus Finch. He folds his hands in his lap, leans forward slightly, and speaks in that measured baritone that commanded every courtroom scene he ever played. I came to thank you for something you did 35 years ago, something I just learned about last week. The room goes silent. Dorothy looks confused. The nurse freezes. Mitchum's eyes narrow. Gregory continues, his voice dropping lower. J. Lee Thompson tried to fire me from Cape Fear. You stopped him. Complete silence. Dorothy's hand goes to her mouth. Mitchum closes his eyes for a long moment. When he opens them, there is something different there. Not regret, but the weariness of a secret finally exposed to daylight after 3 decades of silence. Have you ever learned that someone defended you when you were not there to defend yourself? That quiet loyalty that expects no recognition and receives none until it is almost too late? The story goes back to May 1962. Cape Fear is filming at Universal Studios. Gregory Peck is 45, at the peak of his career, fresh off signing to play Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. But first he must make this dark thriller, playing Sam Bowden, a man whose dignity gets stripped away, scene by scene. It is difficult work. Gregory has built his entire career on restraint, on playing men who face crisis with composure intact. Now he must show fear, rage, desperation. The dailies are uneven. Some scenes work, others feel forced. After 2 weeks, director J. Lee Thompson calls a private meeting with studio executives. Gregory is not invited. Neither is Mitchum. The meeting lasts 40 minutes. When it ends, Thompson walks to Mitchum's trailer and sits down uninvited. We have a problem with Peck, Thompson says, holding marked-up call sheets. He is too stiff, too controlled. The studio wants someone who can give us real fear, someone less dignified. Mitchum does not look up from his racing form. He reads them between takes, part of his reputation for not caring about Hollywood politics. But he is listening. He is always listening. Who are they thinking? Mitchum asks. Charlton Heston is available. Lee Marvin. The studio wants to buy out Peck's contract. Mitchum sets down the racing form. He stands, making himself eye level with Thompson. He is not as tall as Gregory, but there is something in his physical presence that makes most men take a step back. What does Peck's contract say about dismissal? Thompson blinks. This is not the conversation he expected. Mitchum barely reads his own contracts. We would work it out, make it worth his while to step aside. Mitchum looks at the director for a long moment. Then he sits back down and picks up his racing form. Not going to happen. Peck stays. Bob, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You are being political. There is a difference. Mitchum finds his place in the racing form. The studio hired 2 actors. Those 2 actors are making this picture. If Peck goes, I go. Call the studio. Tell them I said that. When have you witnessed someone defending another person's right to do their job without expectation of reward? When has quiet loyalty spoken louder than public declarations? Thompson leaves without calling the studio. Instead, he watches the next day's shooting more carefully. What he sees is an actor struggling not from lack of ability, but because he is being asked to betray everything his career represents. That evening, Thompson approaches Gregory with a different suggestion. Less external emotion, more internal pressure. Let Sam Bowden's dignity become the trap that Max Cady exploits. Play the control. Let the audience see what it costs to maintain it. Gregory considers this. It makes sense. The next day's shooting is different. Better. The studio executives watch the new footage and say nothing more about replacement. Mitchum never mentions his conversation with Thompson. Gregory never knows it happened. Cape Fear finishes shooting in July 1962. It releases in April 1963 to critical and commercial success. Gregory's controlled terror against Mitchum's predatory menace creates exactly the tension the film needs. Gregory wins his Oscar for Atticus Finch. Mitchum makes another 50 films playing dangerous men with that same easy menace. Over 35 years, they see each other at industry events, award ceremonies, occasional dinners. They are cordial but not close. This is how Hollywood works. You make a picture together, you move on. But there is something between them, a respect that does not require words or performative friendship. In 1991, Martin Scorsese remakes Cape Fear. Both appear in small roles. On set, they barely speak beyond what scenes require. But when production wraps, Mitchum shakes Gregory's hand. You were right about Bowden. Control was the key. Gregory nods. That is the extent of their conversation. The secret emerges by accident. June 1997, a film historian interviews J. Lee Thompson for a Cape Fear retrospective. Thompson is old now, loose with details he once guarded. He mentions the studio conflict, Mitchum's ultimatum, the decision to keep Gregory. A magazine publishes the interview. Gregory reads it on a Tuesday morning in his Beverly Hills home. He sits in silence for 10 minutes. Then he calls Dorothy Mitchum. She tells him Robert has weeks, maybe days. Gregory drives to Santa Barbara the next afternoon. Which brings us back to July 1997, to the bedroom overlooking the Pacific, to Gregory sitting beside Mitchum's deathbed, saying words that shock everyone present. Mitchum looks at Gregory without speaking. The oxygen hisses. Outside, eucalyptus trees move in the wind. Finally, Mitchum speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. Wasn't charity. You were right for the part. Gregory leans forward. His jaw is tight, but his eyes are gentle. Why did you never tell me? Mitchum closes his eyes. When he opens them, there is something that might be humor or pain or both. Because you would have thanked me. I did not want to be thanked. I wanted to finish the picture. The simplicity of this hits everyone in the room. Not heroism, not grand gesture. Pure professional pragmatism. Mitchum defended Gregory because losing Gregory would have hurt the film. Nothing more complicated, but also nothing less important. Gregory sits back, hands folded. When he speaks, his voice drops even quieter. This is when Gregory Peck is most dangerous, when his voice becomes barely audible and every word carries absolute certainty. I have spent 35 years not knowing that I owed you my career. Mitchum shakes his head slightly. Don't owe me anything. You did the work. I just made sure you got to do it. That is exactly what I owe you for. The two men look at each other. 80 and 79. At the end of long lives, in an industry that devours most people it touches. They survived because they understood something most actors never learn. Loyalty is not about friendship. It is about recognizing when someone deserves the chance to prove themselves. Dorothy steps forward, crying differently now. Bob, why did you never tell me? Mitchum looks at his wife of 57 years. Wasn't important. It is the most important thing I have heard in months. Mitchum almost smiles. You married a fool then. The tension breaks. Gregory laughs, a short bark of surprised humor. Mitchum manages something that might be a laugh or a cough. The moment shifts from heavy revelation to something lighter. two old men sharing a joke only they fully understand. They talk for 20 more minutes. Gregory tells Mitchum about the pressure of playing Atticus Finch, about Harper Lee, about the impossibility of living up to being America's moral conscience. Mitchum listens with the same attention he brought to their first script reading 35 years ago. Must be exhausting. Mitchum says, being Atticus Finch all the time. Gregory considers this. It would be more exhausting to be anything else. Mitchum nods. That is why Thompson was wrong. You were not too stiff. You were too honest. Bowden needed honesty, not tricks. I knew that. Thompson figured it out. This is the core of their mutual respect. Mitchum saw Gregory's limitation as an actor, his inability to portray what he was not, and recognized it as the source of his power. Gregory saw Mitchum's apparent carelessness, his refusal to take himself seriously, and recognized it as perfect discipline. They were opposites who understood each other because both refused to lie about who they were. Do you remember when actors were allowed to be themselves instead of performing versions of themselves? When limitation was not weakness but clarity? Gregory stays 40 minutes. When he rises to leave, Mitchum's hand, skeletal now, reaches out. Gregory takes it. The grip is weak but present. Greg, first time Mitchum has used the shortened version. You were the best Atticus Finch there could have been. Not because you played him, because you were him. Gregory's jaw tightens. His eyes narrow. These are the tells when he fights emotion. His voice, when it comes, is rough. Bob, I was never Atticus Finch. I was just an actor trying to play a better man than I am. That is what Atticus Finch would say. Which proves my point. They look at each other for the last time. No dramatic declarations. No tearful goodbyes. Just two professionals who respected each other enough to tell the truth. Gregory leaves. Dorothy walks him to the door, thanks him for coming. He tells her Robert is the bravest man he knows, which is true. He drives back to Beverly Hills as the sun sets. He does not cry. Gregory Peck does not cry in public, and in his mind, even alone counts as public. But his hands grip the steering wheel tighter than necessary, and twice he pulls over because his vision blurs. Robert Mitchum dies 3 weeks later, July 1st, 1997. Tributes pour in from every corner of Hollywood. The funeral is private in Santa Barbara. Gregory attends, sits in back as he did at so many funerals for people he respected. He does not speak during eulogies. This is not his place. But after the ceremony, Dorothy approaches with an envelope. She gives it to him without explanation and walks away. Gregory waits until he is in his car to open it. Inside is a handwritten note on paper, torn from a racing form. Mitchum's handwriting, shaky but legible. 3 sentences. You asked why I never told you. Because some things are worth more when they stay quiet. We understood each other. That was enough. Gregory folds the note, puts it in his jacket pocket. He sits outside the chapel for 15 minutes, watching people leave, watching Dorothy accept condolences. Then he drives home. 6 years later, June 2003, Gregory Peck dies at 87. Among his effects, his family finds that racing form, with Mitchum's note. Gregory's son mentions it to a reporter who digs deeper, finds the 1997 article, and pieces the story together through interviews. The full picture becomes clear only after both men are gone. Mitchum defended Gregory when Gregory could not defend himself, not for glory, not for friendship, but because it was right. Professional integrity expressed through quiet action. Today, when we watch Cape Fear, we see 2 performances that work because the actors respected each other enough to push each other toward excellence. But we also see something deeper. We see Gregory Peck playing a man whose dignity is tested, never knowing his own dignity had been defended by the one man who seemed to care least about such things. This is what Hollywood used to mean. Not just stardom, but the quiet courage to defend someone's right to work. Not just fame, but using whatever power you have to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum were not friends in the conventional sense. They were something rarer. If you remember, when actors measured their success not by box office, but by respect of their peers, this channel is for you. Share this with someone who understands that the greatest acts of loyalty happen without witnesses. Like, if you believe these stories still matter, subscribe to keep this era alive. We are here every week, preserving the moments that defined what Hollywood meant when it meant something. And tell us, have you ever learned that someone defended you when you were not there? Or share a moment when you witnessed quiet loyalty that expected nothing in return. Every memory matters. Every story deserves to be heard. This is what we are preserving. Not gossip, not scandal, but the truth about what character looks like when no one is watching.